and for a wonderful session. And Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Let's get started with our opening prayers like we always do. So let me share my screen and we should get underway. Okay, let's get started. Do we have a hard stop today at 10? So we'll
I
pace it.
think, yes, I'll just take it out.
Okay, we'll pace it accordingly. So let's get started with our opening prayers like we always do. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, morning, good evening again to all of you. A very warm welcome. Let's get started with today's topic. So as part of our Soul Soup segment, we are talking about problems. So for us to, it is a series in Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment series that we are undergoing right now, discussing as part of the Soul Soup segment. And as part of this series, we are talking about problems. Problems is something that makes us unhappy, and we are trying to put it in perspective. So as part of the series, we have come to this point that can we avoid problems? The answer is an overwhelming no. It is a part and parcel of life. So in that case, we need to expect problems, anticipate problems, and not get surprised when we get problems. Okay, they're bound to happen in some form or manner. And then when we prepare for problems, we don't go by a perfect or a happy path always. And when we prepare for problem, after that we face the problem. And when you face the problem, you put the problem in its proper perspective to begin with. We had come this far yesterday, and today we'll talk a little bit about embrace the value of hardships. Now, problem in itself may is not bad as such. Our normal way of looking at a problem is that this is something bad that needs to be absolutely avoided at all costs. However, problems are not really bad. Okay, we embrace the problem and we'll try to look at it, try to understand it a little deeply here. Now, the the difficulties that come in our life, they have a positive side to them. Right? There's a saying in English, every cloud has a silver lining. So it is in facing them, when we face problems, we grow from within. So even if we look at when we were studying, for us to graduate from one standard to another, or one grade to another, or one class to another, we had to face tests and pass those. So one who prepares also tests. So similarly, these problems, uh, and even a gem, it gets polished with friction. The that cutting that happens, the gems, they are prepared. Now, Franklin Roosevelt had said very famously that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And the fact is that the adversities have opportunities inherent in them, and opportunities do not come without problems. This is how it goes. Opportunities for us to grow from within comes with problems only. So while we focus on success as something which is external acquisition of things and around us, or externally adorning ourselves, that is what we think true success is from God's standpoint and Guru's standpoint. It's when we overcome problems, when we adorn ourselves from within by facing those hardships and coming out of it with flying colors, passing those tests with flying colors, that is extremely pleasing to God and Guru. So for us, um, smooth life might be something that we crave for. But from God's perspective, when we face hardships and we come out of it, that's when God smiles and really feels good about it. Even the Guru's purpose is served when we face hardships and come out of it, with a proper understanding and come out better and stronger out of it. Now, there's a story around this schoolboy who had learned about the life cycle of a butterfly in his science class. He learned that caterpillars weave a cocoon around themselves, they hibernate in it, and then emerge as beautiful butterflies. Now, when he was walking through his driveway, one day he saw a cocoon hanging from a rose bush in his garden. And then he was thrilled that now he's going to see that miracle of nature unfold in front of his eyes, he thought. Now, every day before, while going to school, he would, and returning from it, it would check how it is coming out, right? Whether the butterfly has started to emerge out or not. And one day in the morning, he saw a small tear in that cocoon, small tear in that cocoon, and he was super excited. Now, every hour, he will go and take a look at the progress of that cocoon. Late afternoon, the butterfly had started pushing its head out, and he was watching that, seeing that butterfly trying to rip it apart and pushing itself out. But when it emerged halfway, it seemed to have gotten stuck. The head kind of got stuck. Now it was unable to extract itself anymore, and it was bobbing up and down with the force of the butterfly. Now the boy felt really pity at that. And what he did was he ran inside, bought a pair of scissors, and he was feeling sorry for the butterfly and he snipped the cocoon open. And when he did that, he thought, I am done with the good deed for the day. I have done a huge favor to this butterfly which was struggling to get out of the cocoon. So he thought, okay, my good deed for the day is done, and he felt very satisfied with his effort. However, when the cocoon was cut, the butterfly fell to the ground and began squirming on the earth. Now, he observed that the stomach was swollen, wings were shriveled, and he thought this situation would soon get corrected. I would see a butterfly emerging out of it because he fast tracked that process, right, from within the cocoon. But the wings would fill up and the stomach would shrink, but it never happened. Little did the boy know that it was through that struggle that butterfly would have grown wings and soared, taken the flight that it does basically. So the struggle would have enabled the fluid from its stomach into the wings. And without that struggle, the stomach would remain swollen and the wings shriveled, and that butterfly could never realize its potential. Similarly, for anybody to snip away our problems, that is what we wish, would also, and basically we will meet the same fate if that were to happen, because we would not be able to grow wings. It's only through that struggle are we enabled to take the flight ahead in our life. So this is how we look at, so this is God's way. Problems are God's way of helping us fill our wings, like the wings of the butterflies are filled. And that is how he prepares us for the spiritual flight ahead. In this case, our flight is the spiritual flight ahead that God is preparing for us, right? Now, even at the school, the teacher imparted us knowledge, but someone who imparts us knowledge tests us as well. So this is how it goes. We cannot say we will only take the knowledge and we will not give the test, because without the test, we cannot progress to the next level. So this is how it works. So hopefully this example of cocoon and butterfly, it puts uh, problems in perspective, because we should not be really looking at avoiding the problem, but to come out better and stronger from it. In fact, when we face problems, then at that moment, we are forced to exert ourselves. And when we are forced to exert ourselves, it results in inner growth. And when it results in inner growth, that is most pleasing to God and Guru as well. Now you are serving the purpose of the creation itself. So problems are an opportunity for us to uplift ourselves and enable our flight to soar, the flight to soar, in the flight of basically spiritual flight, to take the spiritual flight, soar high in that. Yes, Sandhya, you had a question?
Just one addition, like something you said earlier, that God and Guru also make sure that we don't get any problem that will break us. So only for our growth, but not as big as can break us. So yeah.
Right. So this is how it works. Good point. This is how it works. So let's say our ability is at this level. So typically the way God orchestrates the problem is that he will give you problem a little more than your ability. Why? Because only if it is a little more than your ability will you stretch yourself and come here. If it is way more than your ability, then it will demoralize you or it may even break you. And if it is way beyond, below your ability, then it will make you comfortable and complacent and even possibly lazy. So he will give you things that would enable you to stretch just a little. You push the envelope, you come here, and then he'll take it here, and then you come here, then he'll take it here, and that's how you keep on taking the flight ahead. So it is a great opportunity to overcome that adversity, and it is a great opportunity to adorn yourself from within as opposed to thinking, no, I need to avoid problem. So problems are a part and parcel of life. Expect them, prepare for them, face them, put it in perspective, and embrace hardships. Okay, that is the secret to look at the problems which are bound to happen in everybody's life. Okay, nobody is immune from them, and this is how the design of this world is. Our scriptures say this world is shashwatam and dukhalya. It is a place of misery, but if you look at the problems in perspective, they are truly a great opportunity to uplift yourself, to chisel yourself, to polish yourself, and take your spirituality to another level altogether. Yes, Kumarji, you had a question too?
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman. So what Sandhya ji said, um, some people do break, right? And then what is it that is missing in them is probably the knowledge, the lack of knowledge that God is benevolent and He's there to take care of us and He won't give a problem that will break us.
True.
That knowledge is not there with those people who get, I don't know to say get broken or who break.
So Kabir ji had said that doha, right? Sona sajjan sadhujan, टूटे जुड़े सौ बार, दुर्जन कुंभ कुमार के धक्का दे दरार. So yes, if you have not equipped yourself from spiritual knowledge, one incident can break you in life forever. Only when you have equipped yourself with proper perspective and knowledge will you be able to channelize and utilize those problems as an opportunity for inner growth. And that is all the more reason for us to invest in spirituality as well. And it is said you don't dig a well when your house is on fire. The right time to dig a well is when things are going fine. Invest on yourself. Build those cushions because it's just a matter of time before the problem will come. Nobody can say I'm immune from a problem or I've never had a problem. Well, it's just a matter of time. So that is why it is said that it's important for us to invest in spiritual building spiritual assets because that will help you in seeing the problem in its proper perspective and utilize that opportunity for the growth itself. We did this exercise, right, multiple times. I mean, all the problems that have come in your life define who you are today. So problems have depth. Otherwise, we will not be able to develop depth and perspective in life at all. If it's a smooth ride for us, auto gear, no traffic, what kind of driving skill would you learn? Nothing whatsoever, right? Yeah, Jyotiji, please go ahead. Good to see you.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
One small clarification. It seems unkind to say that God gives us problems. It's more we are facing our own karma from past or from our past lives, past, you know.
True.
So it is us that create our own problems. It is just that God is trying to dole it out in small portions, like Sandhya said, so that it doesn't break us, but it sort of teaches us a lesson for us to be better. Radhe
True.
Radhe.
So what I would re-articulate it to say, problems are God's way of helping us fill our wings to prepare us for the flight ahead. Now, he could technically choose any problem, right? We have had infinite lifetimes and so much of sanchit karma and so much of stuff that we would have accrued. But then he will dilute it and pick it to an extent that, although it is law of karma, we are the authors of our destiny, fair point. But still, he has the ability to pick a drop for us in a manner and give it to us in a manner so that it doesn't break us or demoralize, right? So that aspect he controls. So he's merciful. He's just giving us back the result of our stuff, but then even that is orchestrated in a manner so that we can utilize it as an opportunity as opposed to getting demoralized or broken from that experience altogether. So God is simply giving us the results because we are playing a perfect justice dispensing game with him at this point. We are not yet moved towards a model where we are relying on his grace alone, right? We are playing a game where it is like, what shall you sow, so shall you reap kind of a game, right? And we'll talk more about grace tomorrow, by the way, in our cash up segment tomorrow. It's a good segue for the discussion we are going to have tomorrow, because today we're going to talk about this and then a little bit about God and some of the concepts around it. And tomorrow we will move transition into how do we demystify God's nature itself, right? So whatever God does or Guru does, it is born out of mercy only. They are never, it's not like a vengeant father who's waiting to crack a whip on us. Not at all. Good point, Jyotiji. So nevertheless, let's move on to our Bhagavad Gita. We will not have recitation today. I'll quickly do that. And then we'll move to the topic of discussion because I had pretty interesting and fascinating questions yesterday. It's part of our session would be spent in discussing those because they're very interesting questions. Okay. And I'm very sure it'll have a pretty good participation as well, because I'm pretty sure you would have come across those questions and it would be good to get answers to those questions as well. Anyways, let me recite this shloka and then we'll move on towards those questions. Yat sankhe prapyate sthanam tad yogairapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati. Okay, so this shloka is saying that supreme state that is attained by means of karam sannyas is also attained by working in devotion. Hence, those who see karam sannyas and karam yoga to be identical truly see things as they are. So, as we've been discussing in over the last few sessions, that karam yoga and karam sannyas are essentially the same. Cosmetics may vary, external attitude, not attitude, but external mechanics of, one pursuing a particular path as opposed to the other may vary, but internally both are same. This is what we are discussing. So let's go a little more deeper. But before that, let's take these questions which have come in, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you would be thinking about as well, right? Let's have a bit of a discussion and then we move forward. We talk about, can renunciation, mere renunciation, lead us to God realization? We'll talk about that as well. Now, one of the questions that comes is, now we are talking about Karam Yoga and Karam Sannyas, right? Now, what if happens to the world if all becomes ascetic sannyasis, right? People have this question. They will come across, say, okay, what if everybody becomes sannyasis? Who will take care of the moving the world forward? Creation is there. After all, we are also responsible. We have some duty towards that as well. Or are we going against the natural instincts that God has endowed us with? Anybody has come across this question where people will say, if you will also become Baba, everybody will become Baba. What happens to this creation, right? Has anybody come across this question? Or anybody thought about it? Anybody who wants to share anything on it? Because I think Shilpa had asked this question yesterday in the tracker. Hypothetically, if everybody becomes sannyasi, will it be pleasing to God? I think it's a pretty interesting question. Let's hear it out. Tarunji, I think you've raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Tarun ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So, my view, I also used to think it sometime that way, but as I have built the understanding, I feel it's never going to happen. Everyone comes with their own what we call samskar from the previous birth, from their learning and learning. So everyone look at right time of doing things, and that never happen at the same time in the whole world. So people, there will be always persons who will indulge in these things, but definitely larger or much larger portion of people are going to stay with the what we call material world.
So are you saying, Tarunji, let me play a devil's advocate here. Are you saying God is playing on the law of probability alone? That is not going to happen. Not everybody will do that. So I'm safe. Creation will continue. But what if
Ye-
hypothetically everybody does? Can happen. Or you think God
I
is
think
playing with
like
law of probabilities here? Huh? That, it doesn't like I know them
yeah,
for
the kind of population or the kind of universe we have, it is not going to happen, I think.
okay, fair point. Let's hear from Samiran. Samiran, yes, go ahead, Samiran. Fair point, Tarunji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
I
Radhe.
think these questions definitely come to like each and every individual like once at a point because of the worldly things and problems that we deal. But taking ahead, if someone wants to even think of attaining a spiritual path also, being a karma yogi, I think it's just the surroundings and the people that they put a fear inside us that uh, like relatives also they put a fear that he will he is diverting from the path and things like that. I think that stops a lot and influence a lot.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think you brought in a fair point that you could be a Karam yogi and yet be basically you don't have to completely subscribe to giving up the social duties altogether, right? And be a sannyasi and yet be progressing in that. That's a fair point. But yeah, hypothetically, if everybody becomes Karam sannyasi, what happens? Yes, Sandhya, go ahead. You had a big smile when this question came up. Go ahead.
Oh, first of all, there is a comment from Manisha ji.
Mhm.
While watching Mahabharata, I came across this that if people like Bhishma, Pitama would not have taken the sannyas, the situation would have been different. All good people should not take sannyas. Society needs such people for the upliftment.
Okay, okay. At least I think Ambika would have appreciated your response. Thank you, Manisha ji. Okay, you wanted to add something, Sandhya?
Yeah, like I mean, I don't think I mean, okay. So you said that do you think these questions are common? My answer is yes.
Mhm.
And with respect to these questions, I mean, I personally feel like Karma Yoga or Karma Sannyas, those decisions are anyway not something that we can take ourselves without Guru's guidance. But I don't feel we have a responsibility to ensure that the world is taken care of. That is God's responsibility, and He will take care of it. So, yeah,
So basically, you are saying not my freaking problem. Huh? Okay, good.
I
That's
don't know.
great
Yeah.
attitude to have. All right, fair enough. Let's hear from Champaji. Champaji, it's always good to hear from you. You've raised your hand after a long time. So let's hear from Champaji. Then we come to remaining hands. Yes, Champaji.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe.
Otherwise,
Can you
Champaji.
hear me? Yeah. I may be totally wrong here. Please correct me.
Mhm.
Um, I think during the time of Buddha, many people took to sannyas, men, women, youngsters, and it was a lot of people joined the order. I think that was one of the reasons that Buddhism sort of fell in India. It is not practical. You have to be in Hinduism, you expect a lot of maturity to get into sannyas.
Mhm.
I may be wrong. That was one of the reasons that Buddhism did not survive in India. That's my understanding.
Possibly, Champaji. I don't have much insights into that. But yeah, I think let's take the discussion forward because I think there might be some more questions that will come out of it. So, what happens to the world if everybody becomes sannyasi? I mean, hypothetically, everybody could take sannyas, right? Let's say it's not a Falgu Viragya. Let's say everybody get the call of God. Okay, they have sufficient. They have worked sufficiently on themselves, and under the expert guidance of Guru, he said, yes, you are eligible for it. So, what difference does it make? Right? Let's make it Brahmaji's problem to, take Srishti forward or whatever the case may be. It's only a privileged few who get this opportunity to uplift themselves and make a business case for God's abode, right? So it's not at all a problem to have. So these arguments are presented by society and people who become, who don't have a correct understanding of this principle at all. First of all, yes, it's a law of diminishing return, right? Lord Krishna himself has said in Bhagavad Gita, Sahasraeshu, he says that Amongst millions of people, very few get attracted to this path, and even within those, very few truly seek, and even within those, very few truly attain me. So that, the law of probability and averages takes care of it, right, for most part. But God is not just gambling on that. Even if it happens, it, it's not a big problem for God, right, to create something to continue the soul's journey in some form or manner. And then there are so many people, right, who are already taken on this responsibility to keep the creation moving forward. If we get the call of God, or if we get the opportunity, or if we get the inspiration, we should simply proceed with it without getting sidetracked with any of these arguments. Okay, this whole responsibility of taking the creation forward, or the societal stuff basically, and not resorting to sannyas. First of all, sannyas is not needed. You can have very well practiced karma yoga. That is what is recommended in Bhagavad Gita as well, for the majority of the people. Through karma yoga also, you can continue to progress on the path of spirituality. You don't have to turn your back towards anything at all. You simply have to add God and purify your consciousness, and that is good enough. And secondly, even if for some reason you are detached and you don't participate, absolutely no reason to feel paranoid about it based on so many arguments that are presented around you. Okay, so this is how it's meant to be. I think Swamiji, I've spoken to Swamiji on this topic, and he is explained the same around it. Okay, so no issues whatsoever around that part. Any other question? I think there was some discussion. Any other questions anybody wanted to ask before we must proceed further with this discussion? Because I wanted to discuss very important concept, another concept here. Any other questions related to the discussion we had yesterday? Okay, let's hear from Chandruji.
Yeah.
Chandruji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I would say that even though we have many enough religions to fight, we do not have enough religions to spread love. What happens to the world if all became ascetics? Then we would have more religions and more religions to preach, to teach, but there would be no religion to teach us how to love really. That's my point I wanted to make over here.
True. See, religion is created by humans.
Right.
So,
And spirituality would would increase.
True.
But
Spirituality modifies.
is it really creating the love in the people's heart? Like karma yogis, like Swamiji says, they do the worldly duties as well as the spiritual duties.
True.
That would be missing over there.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes. Good point. Okay. I see a new hand. Good to go ahead, please. Pooja. You had a question?
Radhe Radhe Nitin Bhaiya. You have explained this concept of difference between moksha and mukti. And Keshav ji also spoke briefly about it. But Nitin Bhaiya, can you please just give me a quick understanding of this one more time, as in if you can.
Okay. So moksha and mukti. Why not add nirvana also to it? How about adding nirvana also? Nirvana.
Nitin Bhaiya, can you just give me one moment? I'm barely able to hear you. I guess there's something wrong with my phone. Just give me one moment, please.
Is everybody else able to hear me?
I guess there's something wrong with my phone itself.
Okay, you may want to fix that, and then I can come back to it. I would say,
Sure.
Are you able to hear me? Just let me know when you are.
Let me join again. I'm sorry,
Sure,
but
you can join back again, and until then, let's hear from Kumarji. Go ahead, please.
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman. So my thought on this is the world, I think, is a drama. God is the producer and director, and we are just merely actors on the stage. So having said that, God is not going to make everyone sannyasi, karma sannyas, right?
You have a free will, though. God is a director, but you have a free will.
You have a free will, but it's a limited free will. So he will ensure that not everyone is a karma sannyasi, so that the world has to go forward, and we still have our base desires and material afflictions and attachments. So karma sannyas, I think, is a very evolved stage of spirituality. I have great respect for that. So this is my thought. So you have to go through karma, then karma yoga, then karma sannyas, and then that's when you reach
You think
God.
God is capping it? He will make sure we don't have enough karma sannyasis at all? Or is it dictated by our free will and the choices that we make?
We have a limited free will, but I think he knows what's going to happen. Even though we say we have free will, he say, okay, this person is capable of this, and
That
if it has to happen, he'll give you a slap. He'll give us a slap on our wrist, saying that, hey, you're going the wrong way. So for some reason or the other, I feel very strongly about it. He's directing the whole thing. We should still put our efforts towards it, but at the end, he decides everything.
Okay, so you're saying limited free will. We have a free will, but not quite, is what I heard, right? Okay.
Correct.
So, all right. So now that brings me to another philosophical question. God is all knowing. Now, does he know when will we become God realized? It's an interesting question, right? Because if he knows, then where is the concept of free will? That means he knows, then what's the point? He knows that when we are going to reach maybe after 1,000,000 life, 2,000,000 or 3,000,000, that means it's going to happen anyways. But if he doesn't know, then how can he be all knowing? That goes against the very definition of God. Does God know when we'll become God realized? Anybody wants to take that question until Pooja joins? Because I think it's an interesting question. She asked about mukti and moksha, and I've added nirvana to it as well.
केशव जी राधे राधे
जी राधे राधे
राधे राधे मुक्ति मोक्ष nirvana karma sannyas. What is karma sannyas? Sannyasi are not those who put on saffron clothes. Sannyas is not, doing everything and to not claim ownership of doing is sannyas. While doing every karma, I am not the doer. That is karma sannyas. And Kumarji, earlier I was always mostly a yes man, yes person. But now I'm not, no more. Because I'm Bhagavad Gita student. And this question, your first question, Nitinji, one which you asked, if sare sannyasi ban gaye, what will happen? I was asked this question about like 15 years ago. I'm in this field for 28 years now. So I told, like, what do you mean we all are sannyasi? We talk of just human beings. What about the other souls? In animals, in insects, there is no quantity. Nobody in the world can do census of that. It is impossible. And how many souls are there? Nobody knows. Nobody. So there will never ever be. And God, when you say God resides in every single, not only human being, but animal, insects, plants, trees, then do we think God doesn't know? God is everything. He is non-doer at all. 100%. He is not the director for our actions. Like somebody mentioned about Bhimji, Bhisham Pitama. See what happens. Lord Krishna told, he said, Bhisham Pitama said, I went in meditation and saw my previous 5 lives, didn't do any wrong action. Why I'm in तीरों की छैयों पे क्यों पड़ा हूं? Purushottam Krishna took him 125 years, 125 earlier lives, and showed him that it is as per Bhagavad Mahapuran. You can read the story. So coming to the point, like in that, okay, what is Manush? We all are Manush. I asked another group, same our group, the one follows this. What do we mean by Manush? If anybody knows what is Manush? If we say, talk in English, we may say human beings. No, sir, no, please, not at all. Manush is man and आशा, mind and hope. मन की आशाओं से बंधा हुआ मनुष्य क्या है? मन की आशाओं से बंधा हुआ और सैकड़ों फांसियों में फंसा हुआ ये मनुष्य है. तो भीष्म पितामह जी को 125 जन्म पहले पहुंचा दिया, दिखा दिया. तो हमारे 125 और कई सैकड़ों जन्मों के हम वो कर्म को भुगत रहे हैं. तो इस जन्म में कितने लोग बन जाएंगे सन्यासी? राधे राधे. I'm taking more
Thank
time.
you, Keshavji. Yes. Okay. So yeah, I think law of averages or law of probability is what most people are leaning towards. We'll come back to that question. I think there was a moksha and mukti question asked. Are you back, Pooja? Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, so I think that these concepts, they are interchangeably used in a lot of text, right? Mukti, moksha, nirvana. So there could be subtle technical differences between those, but typically nirvana, moksha, they are synonymous. So typically muktis, they talk about like jivan mukt, they use the word, right? So it's like when you are past the cycle of life and death. So there could be a tipping point in your life when you are alive and you are transcended life and death. That is mukti. You could be alive and yet be free from the cycle of life and death. But you may choose to continue. It's like you have hit a lottery, but you continue to choose to be a beggar because it doesn't matter to you anymore. Okay. And complete your this life. And after that, you merge with God. Moksha or nirvana is something where your identity is merged with God.
Okay.
And that is what you, after death. So when will it happen? It will happen when you shed this cross body. So mukti is something you could enjoy in the status, in living status itself. You are jivan mukt. You are beyond life and death cycle. And after death, when you die, you attain moksha or nirvana, so to say. Now there's a difference there. It's like this. You are going on a vacation with a one-way trip, one-way ticket. Like when you go to moksha, you go to a vacation and you can perpetually stay there. You don't have to come back to the cycle of life and death here. You are not obliged to take birth again. But there is a limitation there. Moksha has a limitation. It is called you were in misery because this life, is it called a dukhalya, place of misery, tridosh, tritap, adi bhautik, adi devik, adhyatmik, all that we have to do. Old, old age, birth, death, and disease, we all have to, suffer from when we are born. We are beyond the cycle of birth and death. But what has happened is from negative, you have come to zero. So moksha is from negative, you have come to zero. But to positive, you have not yet come. That is called Premanand, divine love. Only those people get that who worship God in his Saguna Sakar form. So that is called divine love or a Premanand. When you do moksha, when you make the moksha as a goal of your life, then your potential is capped. You are bereft of serving God, you are bereft of his divine love, and you are bereft of having a personal relationship with God. So there is a difference between moksha and Premanand. Premanand is even higher than moksha. If you read scriptures on your own, these concepts can confuse you. It's not a concept that can be understood without proper context or without the expert guidance of a guru who can explain these concepts. So even if you go around researching these concepts on your own or reading the text on your own, it can confuse you, and then you'll have your limited understanding, which can be counterproductive as well. So this is how it goes. And when it comes to moksha, from a devotion standpoint, it is also called, when you seek moksha, it's called spiritual suicide. Why? Because once you're merged with God, it's like this. You had an opportunity to enjoy honey like a honeybee, but you have become the honey yourself. So then you have forfeited the opportunity to relish that higher bliss. Okay, yesterday or day before, I was talking about, there are four stages. First stage is when people, they don't have a spiritual consciousness. So they say, why moksha? Right? Then they start understanding the concept of moksha, that moksha is going beyond the cycle of life and death. Then they say, hi moksha. And then they say, my moksha, I want moksha. And then finally, when they get devotion, they say, bye moksha. You don't even need moksha. You go beyond that. So that is what moksha is. It is also called nirvana. Mukti is technically different because you can attain it when you are alive.
Okay.
You could be in that stage. I hope I answered partly.
Oh, absolutely, Nitin bhai. I guess this was the most satisfactory answer I could get. And as you said, I was actually Googling, reading different stuff, and I actually got confused and I wanted to get a very good answer from you, which I was definitely expecting and I got as well. So thank you.
No worries. So Jivan Mukti is a state a lot of people can enjoy. It's like a beggar hitting a lottery, let's say American Lotto. But then he looks at his old clothes and say, okay, let me experience how it used to be begging. But then his consciousness has changed. He's beyond that anxiety and stress he would have whether I'm going to get enough alms today to get food for, for the day or not. Now he's already become a millionaire. So Jivan Mukt people are there just to honor God's code of prarabdh or karma. They continue to live in this life. exhaust that prarabdha, and after that they are no longer obliged to come back. Okay, but if you have made moksha as your goal of life, then the limitation is that you will be bereft of divine love. And when you go for divine love, moksha is a byproduct of it. You've automatically attained moksha. It's just like, one thing is you can ask, okay, remove my poverty. That is what moksha or nirvana would be. Second is make me a billionaire. You automatically remove your poverty. So moksha is a byproduct of divine love. It follows, and a devotee rejects moksha also. So they say, like in Maharajji's bhajans, they say, bhukti mukti nade radhe prema sudhade. You reject bhukti, which is all the material cravings, whether it's all the money, power, fame aspect of it, which is bhukti. And mukti is moksha. You reject that as well, because that's not the goal. That is also a self-seeking desire. You are seeking it for self. But when you seek it for the sake of God, that is selfless, then you stake a claim for divine love, which is the highest, topmost prize of God, which God does not give so easily. Right? God, like the most precious thing in our house, where are we going to hide it? Inside that big almirah and couple of closets, and wrap it up. And look, same thing God does as well. Divine love He doesn't give so easily. He's going to throw carrots along the way. Are you going to stop here? Are you going to stop here? Are you going to stop here? Most of the people will stop at bhakti only. Some people will go up to siddhis, then they get stuck at siddhis only. Okay, they can walk on water, they can become big, small, read mind, all that stuff. They stop at that. Some people will stone at some of the more material concepts, material pursuits, bordering on spirituality, but not quite spirituality, like Kundalini and all that stuff. Some people will stop at Mukti only, but people who reject all of it, just make their goal as the goal of the beloved God, they get the divine love. This is how it goes, and it is much higher than Mukti or Moksha for that matter. Yes. Now, do we have time? I want to discuss something, but it will not do justice to this topic. We are going to talk about it tomorrow as well, which is something which is very important. The renunciation, and then what is the dearmost thing to us. And I think that will be a good segue into the cash up segment, that spiritual cash up that we're going to do around what is the nature, demystifying the nature of God. We are going to talk about that tomorrow, but let's carry the discussion forward with the remaining hands that we have for the day. Who have not gotten an opportunity to talk? Arun, let's speak. Have Arun.
Arun ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I think I was just trying to ask or just talk about that point where you mentioned about does God know if souls will attain bhakti? That I had asked Swamiji that question, and he mentioned that yes, we will not know exactly, but God has an idea about the propensity of the jivatma. Now, I'm not exactly sure what propensity of jivatma means, but he mentioned that that's what is known already. So when we say, I had asked Swamiji the question because I had also mentioned that being Sarvagnya, does he know when we will attain bhakti? So he said he knows the propensity, but yeah, not beyond that.
True.
I'm not sure how to understand propensity, but yeah, I just accepted the answer just like.
Very true. It's like, when you are walking with your kid, when he's going to start cribbing that I need this, right? The moment he's going to see candy or that particular toy or the particular thing, because we know the propensity. Similarly, he's the most intimate friend of ours, right? He knows our pravritti. So he has an idea, but even he cannot say, because if he knows, that means we don't have that free will. So it's a philosopher's question, but I had asked this question to Swamiji as well, and he told that yes, even God doesn't know. He has a kind of an idea based on, kind of choices we make, but then he doesn't know when we will end up utilizing our free will and perfecting our surrender. It could happen any moment. It could happen maybe a moment before our death also. Although our propensities, based on that, he can mathematically derive it. What is the probability of this person surrendering at this moment? But then we can prove him wrong. Even he doesn't know that. Yeah, good. Thank you, Arun, for that. Let's hear from Pratyusha. Go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone, Radhe Radhe, sir. So actually, what I was thinking was, Krishna Bhagwan is telling Arjun to do Karma Yoga, which is attaching the mind to Bhagwan. But then when it reaches that 18.66, he says, Sarva, Karma Paritija Mavaveka Sharanam. Means he's telling that, you just leave all those things and just work for me. So, Karma Sannyas, as you said, it can be Falgu as well as it can be Yukta. So when we are actually at that stage when Arjun was working, I mean, Arjun was doing his karma, he was in that, probably in that consciousness that he is working for God. So coming to your question, what happens to the world if all become ascetics? So it's not whether all will become ascetics, probably at a very high level, it will take a long time. But if what will happen if all becomes ascetics, if they are working for God in that consciousness through their body, I think the world will become a beautiful place. Who will take care of moving the world forward? They themselves in that state. And then are we going against our natural instinct? Definitely not, because we are souls. We are at the correct position, correct mindset, and correct in even the bodily aspect. So that's a small thing that I wanted to add.
True, it will be a good problem to have. And even if it's a problem,
Yes.
let's make it Brahmaji's problem and God's problem. God has an ability like chal, achal, sthavar, jangham. He can convert anything, and all possibilities are there. But this is a very moot point. If it is a problem, it's a good problem, like you said, right? And secondly, even if it is, then it's not our problem. God has not given us the weight of moving this creation on our shoulder and made it as a sole priority of our life, not the problem at all. So if this argument is presented, you can simply soft pedal it or reject it. Okay. These are the questions people will say and pose just because they want an escape route out of spirituality, or that's not a priority for them, right? So we can simply ignore that. Great, Pratyusha.
Thank you.
Yes, Sandhya, go ahead. You had something very interesting. I can see that. Or Himanshu.
Oh, okay. I quickly say this that about this point of natural instincts, we haven't received the human birth to follow just our natural instincts, right? So that is anyway not the purpose of this existence as a human being. So that anyway, that point just gets dismissed from that perspective.
Now, people would say, God has endowed us with all these instincts, so why not cater to them? That is also something I think we'll tackle this topic in more detail as the shloka would present, I think, during the course of our discussions. But yes, if we are going to go with the primal instincts alone, then it is just like leading a glorified animal life, right? That's what it'll cater down to. But there's a reason for everything, and it has to be put into perspective. So we can have a more detailed conversation around it. But yes, as human beings, because we are endowed with the discerning ability and the fact that the burden or the onus of knowing the deeper secrets of our the creation or our relationship with God or the purpose of life lies solely on us. So with that said, first of all, we have to understand that and start aligning to those principles. That is imperative on each one of us. It's incumbent on each one upon us, and we cannot simply, for the lack of understanding, we cannot simply present these arguments, which typically you would come across, right? As if the burden of taking the creation forward is on our shoulders, and as humans also, we have to cater to the primal instincts alone because God has endowed us with it. So, but yeah, fair point. Let's hear from Manoranjan ji. Go ahead, Manoranjan ji. And then Himanshu hasn't gotten a chance to speak as yet. Manoranjan ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Namaskaram to all of you. On this context, actually, I'd like to say that we have a misconception. This is a misconception that sannyasis doesn't perform worldly duties. This is a high misconception because renunciation of karma doesn't mean abandonment of karma, because nobody can abandon karma. Renunciation of karma means padma patram yudambas. It is just like the water staying in a lotus leaf. It is still there, but it is not attached.
True.
So karma sannyasis are still there. They are performing all kind of duties, every kind of duty. Even if you are sannyasi, you do all kind of duties, but
No,
you are
as
not attached.
sannyasi, you renounce the
This is the
social,
difference.
right? Manoranjan ji, when we talk about duties here, let's put it in perspective. Nobody can stay without karma even for a second. What we are saying is renouncing social duties. A karam sannyasi, He doesn't
Yeah,
have to go to the
they do not
varnashram.
also renounce social duties. They
They don't
also
get
do not
married, right?
renounce social duties. It is a misconception. If it is said, then it is false. They
Ranjan
very
ji,
well do their social duties, but they are not attached to it. Let us understand in this concept.
so
They
Karam's,
never renounce any abandonment of duty. They never abandon duty.
okay, fair point. What we are talking about the social duty part of it, like a Karam sannyasi, they don't get married. They don't have to go through the varnashram dharam. So when they reject social duties, right, at that point, that is what we are talking about. You think they perform the social duties when it comes to the varnashram dharam as well? No, they don't get married. They don't participate in procreation. They don't do all the things that a Karam yogi would do, right? That's what we are talking about. But fair point. Let's move to Himanshu. Go ahead, Himanshu.
I just wanted to make like a few quick points uh, on the topic. I think being a devotee, if you all are like selfless, practicing Nishkam Seva and Bhakti, then on the point that if everyone becomes a Karm Sannyasi, I think we should try to focus on the point that when God does Leela, even in the Leela, he forgets and he makes forgets the devotee like what about the Leela, right? So when God cries or the devotee is feeling the love, that is also natural. It is not a drama, right? Because the Yogama is making the devotee and God do that. So if God is even Leela taking care of that point and doing it genuinely, then why will God try to know if this devotee will come to me by this time, right? God doesn't need all that. And also, why do we have so many paths then in Bhagavad Gita? Right? Because all of us are having different tendencies. All of us are having different paths. So that's why we can take infinite amount of time to reach God because everything is dependent on our free will. God can't do anything. God is every time and at any moment is ready with folded like open hands to take us, but we are not going there. So I think if we answer this question in a way that can this happen, why not? If God wants, anything can happen. But then in that participation, we are the one who we have to initiate everything. So I just wanted to say like these points. And in any case, after the cycle ends and the Satyug starts, all the Kalyug souls are not going to get immediate chance to come back, at least if they don't have that kind of spiritual elevation. They will again then come in Treta or Kalyug, right? If they don't have that spiritual elevation. So in Satyug, obviously there will be more positive karma and like people will be more towards the karma sannyas.
Good point,
But we are
Himanshu.
in Kalyug. Yeah, thank you.
True, and that is why I think different people have different propensities, karmas, sanskars, right? That is why we have so much of variety here as well, right? Like Swamiji said, different shloks for different folks. So variety is the spice of life, and he honors that, and he gives us different ways to lead to a spiritual elevation. And yes, I think it's a hypothetical question, but I would not read too much into it. It's a good problem to have, even if it happens. We need to focus on our spiritual journey, stay focused, and not get sidetracked with these kind of things. And all of a sudden think, okay, the burden of carrying the creation forward and all that drama, participate in that drama rests on our shoulder only. Okay. These are all what you call lame arguments people would present. Yes, Samiran, we have 5 more minutes, maybe a couple of hands we can take before we wrap up our discussion for the day. Please fill out the feedback tracker. We'll continue this conversation. There's an interesting thing I wanted to share today, but we ran out of time. We're going to talk about that. And then tomorrow, being Wednesday, inspired from PRS, which is Premaras Siddhant, we are going to have spiritual cash up. So I'm looking forward to that. I think there's going to be something interesting which we're going to get presented tomorrow. And we are going to demystify God's nature as part of that segment. So do sign up for tomorrow and put in your questions if you have any related to the discussion that we had or on the topic that we are discussing. Samiran, over to you.
Nitin bhai, in the meantime, Smritaji has a comment. She says, God wants people to be Nitya Sannyasi, as in verse 2, doing Karma Yoga. If he sees people around are not taking the advantage of the virtues endowed to them, he will come on planet Glanir Bhavati Bharata.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Thank you, Smitaji. Yeah, he's going to come Glanir Bhavati Bharata, and and beat the heck out of us, okay, until we align to the principles that he's told us. Great point. Thank you. Samiranji, please go ahead.
Samaran ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I just wanted to tell that uh, the Karm Sannyas and Karm Yoga path, that was a matter of also a choice previously when there was a Gurukul Pratha. And as Nitinji yesterday said that it was destructed by the Britishers who came, they destructed the education system. It was like in the Gurukul Pratha, after completing their term there, the students were asked by their gurus that which path they want to go, either the Karma Yoga or Karma Sannyas path. That was also a matter of choice, and uh, like even like the Karma part, Krishna was also not. He also didn't renounce the karmas, because when karma called him, he had to leave his like birthplace and all the people that he really loved. That was I wanted to share.
Good point, Simran. I think Kal Raat Aaya Mere Ghar Ik Chor. Okay, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, song is doing a lot of rounds, so just replace it with, or maybe you want to hum it for yourself. Kal Raat Aaya Mere Ghar Ik Chitt Chor. So we'll continue on this discussion tomorrow. But this is a very catchy number doing the rounds. I just came across this today. I thought, okay, we can probably, but we'll continue. Anybody has anything? We have 2 more minutes before we wrap up our session for the next one. Anybody has anything else they wanted to talk or share about? Monica ji, you seem to be in a very pensive, thoughtful mood. Anything you wanted to say today?
I just
Mm-hmm.
I just
Radhe
wanted to add one more
Yes,
thing, that
quick, real quick.
we have a great example of karma yogas as well, like Yogi ji, Adityanath Yogi ji and Modi ji also, they we can take their examples as well. They do all the worldly duties, but they're not attached.
Yeah, that's true. I think history books are going to probably reflect on it much more than what we can probably understand at this point. Lokmanya Tilak is known to be another Karam Yogi. And, when we go back, move forward, and history is pretty good judge of, how people perform. But yes, those are the two personalities which people talk of in, pretty highly of, and probably aligning to those principles as well. But let history judge for it itself. But good call out. Thank you. And thank you again, everybody, for a very engaging discussion on this topic. We'll continue on this topic, maybe a concluding discussion tomorrow, including our spiritual segment, and then gear up for the quiz. This time it's going to be pretty interesting as well. So, with that said, I think we are pretty much on clock and time. I see Sunil ji, Ajay Bhai here as well. So, all yours. Over to you. Radhe Radhe. Good day from
Radhe
my
Radhe. Thank you, Nitin bhai.
Radhe
Wonderful
Radhe. See you tomorrow.
session. Thank you, everyone. Let's go ahead and pause the recording on this one, and we'll start the recording on the next